Coming to you from the world where the Triforce goddesses and the random number gods collide. This is the Link to the Past Randomizer tournament, and this is game number 3 between sab0tender and Acktheboker. Hi again, everybody. I'm Jex Refi, and I'm joined by Zora tonight. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Hope everybody out there is doing well as well.
I'm doing great because we've got one race to decide who moves on to the round of 8. Both runners have won one race, and the winner will await the winner of the Yoshi Goomba match in 8. So this will be interesting. Ack took game 1, and then Sabo switched it to standard mode. Sabo won game 2, and Ack switched it to map compass shuffle. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes up. The scape, because we're gonna have one additional item. You know, since that map will probably have gotten shuffled. Wow, words.
Yeah, it'll make the escape interesting, and it also might make the early game a little bit more dynamic as well. Since they're forced to do escape, they're going to be getting a free item. Could be bow to push them into Eastern Palace, which again, like you mentioned, maps and compasses being shuffled, that could be a little bit more valuable.
Now, I'm just going to warn everybody right now. In both races, we've had a somewhat required item on the Lumberjack ledge. In race 1, we had a bow, although they found another one, so they didn't have to get that bow. And in race 2, it was a hammer. So I'm just going to say it right now. If there's an item on the Lumberjack ledge, oh, I am going to laugh so hard. So, alright, so while we're waiting, Gwendian Knight gave us a Twitch Prime sub before we got started, so thank you very much, Gwendian Knight.
Alright, looks like we are underway.
Yep, there we go. Well, we get bombs in Link's house, so that'll be easy having to get through. We won't need to farm any bombs, we just gotta get the item and just go.
Yeah, that's definitely easing the mind of both runners. Not having to farm enemies.
And Kane start.
Looks like sab0tender choosing to farm enemies anyway. That's interesting with the bombs being given up front. I guess they're still hoping to find potentially more bombs or rupees to make the Kakariko routing easier.
Yeah, but first 2 guards don't show bombs, so from what I understand, the bomb prize pack is not on the guards, so they won't need to be checking for any of them.
Yep, that's correct. That book is a nice find, too. Hopefully we'll get a map check soon once we get done with Escape. Be able to see if Desert's required. That might be a really useful item, or a required item.
Mm-hmm. It kind of also helps with deciding if you want to do a Gear's Cave or not, because a Gear's Cave just seems in version 31 to always have more often than not, have something important, and having that book allows you to not feel like you're having to go do a Gina by itself. You can also hop in and check Desert.
Yeah, absolutely. It's likely that the runners will try to wait until they get maybe a glove upgrade and/or a fire source as well, just so they'll be able to complete Desert potentially when they do that. But you're absolutely right.
Ooh, and flippers. So this is a nice escape we've got so far.
Really is. It's making everything really open. So once they get done with Escape, there's a lot of options that they have available to them. Now it's unlikely that the runners are going to be skipping the Kakariko checks since they're going to be coming straight out of Sanctuary, but it definitely is a possibility.
Zelda Cell holding a shield. Sabo having a little bit of trouble with the ball and chain guard, but gets it taken care of.
And while these runners are going through the escape that they've both done tons of times, and I'm sure at least most of us have seen many times, I'd like to point out the one thing I'm excited for in this race is seeing how these two runners route things. I know after the last match, they both mentioned some decisions they made based off of trying to read their opponents and metagame who they're against. So we'll see if that leads to some interesting gambles or just unusual routing decisions.
Yeah, it was going back and watching both races. It was the first one was pretty close. Both runners actually got into go mode pretty quickly, and the second one, it was kind of an unfortunate error on Ack's part to have missed the mirror. I think it was a catfish, and so basically, like, he last locationed it to the point that Sabo won pretty handily. So, to your point, like, we've seen two races thus far that have either come down to one item or have been pretty close. So, I mean, when you're in the top 16, you're dealing with runners who are at the top of their game.
Yeah, and actually that mirror I just wanted to point out was in Misery Mire, and Acktheboker went ahead and rushed Vitreous in the hopes that Vitreous would have the item or that it wouldn't be needed, and that's what ended up getting him. It was a calculated gamble there to try to save some time that ended up coming back to bite him.
And that's one of the things that both runners have done throughout these matches, have done calculated gambles, like doing Hera pot and skipping an item in the big chest of Hera. So both of them are certainly capable of taking those risks. Man, why am I having such problems with words? I don't know. Here's 3 items. Maybe that'll help. Bombs, heart container, compass for Hera.
All right, and I'd like to point out, just in case anybody that's watching isn't aware, the compasses aren't entirely worthless. For these runners, they mostly are, but if you're new to this, they do show you the number of items you've picked up in the dungeon versus the total number available. So if you're new to this or never done a map compass shuffle, it can be helpful to be able to keep track of what items you still need.
Right, essentially with map compass shuffle, for those that are asking in chat, really all you're doing is key sanity light. Only the maps and the compasses are shuffled in the item pool. The small keys and the big keys are still in their dungeon, so it messes with the number of items in each dungeon. But once you have the items to complete it, you're not looking around for keys.
Oh, and here we see that divergence, like I mentioned before, that the runners might choose to go somewhere else other than Kakariko Village with the multitude of items they have.
Which Sabo has been kind of known to do that at least within these races. He's going for the dam.
Yeah, with 6 bombs and a little bit of magic left, he shouldn't have any trouble with Mini Moldorm Cave. He might be able to get something in there that'll help make Kakariko quicker to clear. So it's definitely not a bad play at all.
And one of the tree pulls is a bloopy. Ack not worrying about that compass. He's worrying about checking what's on that pedestal. Very early pedestal check with an early book.
Yeah, it's early, but I think this is a smart play. It's a really good idea to check it since it could save you a ton of time later, and it probably won't be a long time till we get back to being able to check it again anywhere close.
And since it's a little bit of love, we are not required to do said pedestal. Ooh. You'd love to get a double. But gets it done with 4 and still has 1 extra bomb for Ice Rod Cave.
Yeah,
and now has the money for Zora.
Quite a few chests in Mini Molarm, but none of them really any good except for that cash. Same with the Kakariko well. Not a lot of value there either. Oh, sab0tender wasting no time to go to the Zora area. This is nice. Skipping Ice Rod Cave, probably hoping they'll get the flute or boots or some other way to make that walk take a little bit less time.
Map to Eastern. And speaking of that flute...
You have flute and sync at the same exact time, Acktheboker getting the mirror, so that's really valuable as well. It's likely that both runners will get both of those items fairly early, although sab0tender has the nice advantage of being able to activate his flute on the first trip into Kakariko and save some time there.
And we got a Moon Pearl on the Zora ledge.
Yeah, so Flipper's already paying out dividends for these runners. Or at least for sab0tender, who's leaned into him a little bit early.
Yep. Well, most Zora lessons leave us despondent, but the ledge holds something important. Runners don't fear, progression is here, just swim down the river's current.
All right, looks like Acktheboker finishes up the last of the checks in Kakariko Village, and really nothing of note there. Unless Sick Kid or some of these checks on just the south side have anything, that's a lot of nothing, and probably feels like a big time waste, even though he knows that sab0tender will be doing the same checks pretty soon. Was that a lamp on the library? Is that correct?
I don't know. Let me see if I can see it on the... Nope, I missed it on the restream.
Yeah, it was a quick check, but it looks like it was the lamp, so boots definitely required, at least logically, for any dark rooms.
Yep.
That's gonna be quite interesting. These runners might choose to forego that entirely, or wait even once they get boots and just pick it up whenever it's convenient.
Yeah, I think... So, sorry, I think it really just comes down to... Is it the required fire source you need?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, that could be the first required fire source to get them into Hera basement, to get them into left side of Mire and all those other lamp-locked areas. All right, so not a lot new right here. Looks like the runners are just tracing each other's steps. Jax Refi, where do you think these runners might go next after they finish doubling over each other? You think Eastern will be an immediate play on anybody's mind, maybe? Or
I think Desert. I think if you've got the book and you've got the flute, Desert to me seems like a very interesting play to make. Because you can easily flute over there, you got the Agena check. You can see what's in there. And especially with it being map compass shuffle, like if it's not the smaller big key, you're guaranteed that it's going to be something.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Nice to see Ack here using a combination of Kana Samaria block and some bombs to clear out those Moldorms pretty easily. It's good work from him. Gets rewarded with the rest of the money needed for Zora.
So he'll most likely head up and get his pearl also. Or at least we hope.
Yeah, you might hop over to Ice Rod Cave or the Hobo first. It's like he's going up to at least check the island.
Just a big 20. Swag deck time. Ack is going to check that hobo.
Yeah, fortunately for sab0tender, it's just a shield, and with the flute, it's not even a long trip from anywhere to get to the hobo, so it won't be a big issue there.
Nope.
All right, and looks like Acktheboker is checking Ice Rod Cave too, so this is another one that potentially could take a while for sab0tender to get to, because it is just one item, kind of isolated all over here by itself.
But Ack is going to check it. To your point, though, with the flute, it'll be easier for Sabo to go back to it if he has to.
Yeah, absolutely easier, but there's almost no chance of him checking it before going to either Eastern or Desert or both to clear out much higher density checks.
And it's $50, so may not need to go there.
Also, just thinking about it with what the runners have here, they do have logical access to Tower of Hera. There's no way to clear it, so that means all 3 Light World dungeons are accessible and can be at least partially cleared out. That's a really interesting scenario to have this early.
What's also really interesting is the fact that with that, you don't have any guess on what Dark World access is going to be. You know, usually by now we'd at least have like a glove or a sword. Like, we've got nothing right now.
Yeah, that's really unusual. I hadn't even thought about Dark World too much here. I was just thinking about dungeon clearance and what the runners would need to get through those. But you're absolutely right. No hammer, no glove, no sword. Dark World seems like it's still a little bit of a ways away.
And and the music is still shuffled in Map Compass Shuffle. So even though this is the Dark World, the Crystal Dungeon music, don't treat it as certainty right now.
Yeah, and you can see sab0tender having a little bit of a moment there, realizing he doesn't have a weapon to kill that, whatever that enemy's called in the quicksand. It's pretty unusual that scenario comes up here.
Well, we have a small key, so we do get to continue on. Still no glove or means to kill Lammo, so won't be able to get to the back. Ack has his Moon Pearl. There's some bombs.
Looks like sab0tender's setting up for a Death Warp. Forgetting as a mirror for a second, it looks like. But getting the big key, so he is able to check the big chest, and we'll probably check the torch on the way by, just to make sure that it's not a required item that he needs those boots for.
Ack, meanwhile, was heading eastern instead. It's Hospital's Closet. There's a map, most likely. I imagine you're not coming back for that.
It is possible. With this Map Compass Shuffle, there is a scenario where you might need to know what your pendants and crystals are to know if you're in go mode. So if they're in the area, perhaps checking Mire, they might mirror and hop in and check that. But you're right, it's pretty unlikely that that'll get picked up.
Well, Green Pendant is Desert Palace. From what Sahasrahla told us.
Okay, yeah, that's a good play by Ack to check on that one. If anyone's not aware, Sahasrahla always lets you know which dungeon gives you the green pendant, and the bomb shop that gives you the red bomb in the Dark World lets you know what the 5-6 crystals are, which is much more valuable in Map Compass Shuffle, since it can possibly save you on having to pick up some extra maps.
All right, Genus Cave, what do we got for us? Just a piece of heart.
All right, so it looks like we're narrowed down pretty much to Eastern Palace or Death Mountain in the Hera area for our next progression here.
See what Sabo decides to do. He turns right. That means Eastern. Piece of heart first item in Eastern.
Yeah. Oh, actually looks like possibly sab0tender is going to the Hobo and checking the island here. It is, I believe it is a little bit faster to check from Link's house instead of fluting if you're just starting from Link's house anyway. So this makes a lot of sense.
Interesting. I've never timed this to know. And Sabo from there is going to flute to 5, so that's most certainly an Eastern play here.
Yep, going to Eastern, and sab0tender will, just like Ack, be checking Sahasrahla's hut first. It's 3 very quick items, and getting that green pendant knowledge probably as well.
Alright, so logically, there's nothing in Eastern that's obviously not going to stop Ack from getting the big key from its vanilla location and then seeing what the chest has.
That's correct, and that boomerang actually turns out to be very helpful here. These dark rooms are not completely trivial, and especially without a weapon to defend yourself and kind of feel your way around, boomerang's actually a great help to do this.
Absolutely. The one thing I will say, though, is that the Eastern dungeons, the Eastern dark rooms, I should say, at least the front ones, are it's very easy to do them from muscle memory. Since they're very simple, like, it's easy to kind of figure out, like, how long you hold the button and go from there. So you're right that the boomerang will certainly help them out, but it's also, it's pretty easy to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of the first, or possibly the first dark room that a lot of people learn. And if you're not sure if you can do dark rooms or not, that would be one to start with and see how it goes.
And most likely the second one that I would recommend is probably the one we're about to go to next, because I think the mountain's really all we've got left at this point.
Yeah.
And again, oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut into you there.
Oh no, I think I was going to say the same thing you were about to say, and that's that Ack has not checked the desert area, so of course he could go there first.
Well, what I was also going to add is, it's still so fascinating that this seed just does not have anything in terms of how we're supposed to get to Dark World.
Yeah, other than that moon pearl that they got on the waterfall ledge. It's given them a lot of entrance to dungeons, but no way to clear them or really feel like they're making progress. At this point, the runners might be feeling a little bit frustrated, thinking that they're doing all this clearing and just not really getting any payouts.
Well, and it also goes back to what I was saying earlier about how, you know, both race 1 and 2 ended up being Aga seeds, but both of them were because of the item that was on the items that were on the lumberjack ledge. And so you knew early on, you know, no matter what, I'm going to have to do Aga. And so this one just, both runners, you're just kind of stuck right now trying to figure out, like, how am I going to progress? And
Yeah, exactly.
to your earlier point, Ack is going to desert instead of the mountain first. Now, we've seen it from Sabo that at some point someone's going up the mountain.
Yeah, it's pretty likely here that we'll see a fairly synced trip up the mountain from both runners, since they're going to finish clearing out their respective dungeons and be left with no real item density besides that. I would imagine they've both put it off this long, since the climb does feel a little bit long, and without a weapon to kill Moldorm, without a way to get to the east side of Death Mountain, they're probably hoping to make as few trips up there as possible. That can be a very big time save.
Alright, Sabo finishes up Eastern, mirrors out. Most likely it'll be a fluke to 1. As it is. Sabo... not even gonna... What?
It's unfortunate death. It's not going to cost him too much time, luckily, because he can just flute right back there. He didn't waste the whole trip up the mountain or try to dodge the boulders for too long.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that sab0tender, though, did choose to go away from the cave instead of rescuing the old man here. It is, of course, out of logic, like we mentioned, without the lamp, but a lot of runners like to choose to rescue the old man early. That way you get the save and quit point up to the mountain.
Mm-hmm. The one counter to that, and honestly, to be honest, I agree with you, but the one counter to that is, since you have the flute, the save and quit point isn't some people would say it's not as important, but granted, it also is the fastest way to, like, get your hearts back and then flute away. And just the map, so down to Hera.
Yeah,
Progression's got to be in there.
And it's a good play here by sab0tender, I think, to avoid getting that map right now. He could drop down, pick up the map, since he really wants to know that information for the crystal and pendants, but it doesn't give him any immediate progression, so he's probably going to clear out Hera and then drop down and get the map, so he doesn't have to loop another time up the mountain. That's really smart. And is that a compass? Is that text? Now you know where the boss hides.
I think that's I don't know which one that is, but
I believe it's a compass, but I'm not aware of if there's any information on that for which dungeon it is. I don't know if that means it's Ganon's Tower compass or just any compass.
Yeah, Chat is telling us that it is a compass. Alright, progression has to be in here. Oh, look! There's progression!
Okay, doesn't unlock very much, but it's great to have. It definitely unlocks the bonk rocks, and that lamp is now logically available, which is more important.
It'd also be pretty cruel if, basically the seed is telling you have to do a, double dip of Hera if that key is not locked in the basement.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because they don't have a fire source, and they might very well have to come back.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the boots help us with the lamp, but... well, there's the key, so there's gonna be an item in there. Other than really opening up bonk rocks, that really doesn't get us much more than the lamp, because the lamp really doesn't open anything of value for us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. By itself, it's not a great find. That's interesting.
So out we go.
Oh, interesting. sab0tender not picking up that map, either deciding it's going to take too long to grab and the information's not worth it, or perhaps just getting too excited by the boots and taking this a different direction.
Alright, so... we've either got to find a sword or hammer to kill Trolldorm, the bow to kill Armos Knights.
We could find a hook shot as well to get us over to East Death Mountain, and that could lead to progression. And since there are 7 items over there in Paradox Cave, plus another one on Spiral Cave.
Could also be a fetch quest. Alright, Bonk Rocks. Quake.
Well,
Potentially useful, but not useful right now. So it looks like this seed wants you to go get the boots in Hera, and then go all the way back, once you have the lamp, to go get the item in the coffee break room. Sometimes this game is just cruel.
yeah, and unfortunately, does sab0tender have all the checks? I can't recall if he's made every check that Ack has made. I know we've seen everything, but if there's anything that's left out there, it probably feels pretty bad to try to go back into Hera Basement.
I don't think he's done Ice Rod Cave, but, I mean, he fluted 8, and then clearly thought that was a mistake.
Yeah, probably just deciding to save the old man now, since the save and quit point is helpful, and with the lamp, it's logically available. I think it's a pretty similar time as getting to Ice Rod Cave, but unfortunately, no value there.
So something has to be in the coffee break room. Hookshot would get us to East Death Mountain. Sword or hammer would allow us to kill Trolldorm. Bow would allow us to kill Armos Knights.
Absolutely. A hammer is probably the best case for the runners. That's probably what they're hoping for.
And I am disappointed. First 2 races, they had a required item on Lumberjack, and now it's just a big 20. I am disappointed.
Hey, they can't all be winners. I'm sure this seed will find some other way to troll us, like this double dip of Hera.
That is true.
Yeah, actually, and somebody's pointed out that if it's not a sword or hammer, it's potentially a triple dip dungeon that's required for Hera. And that's even worse than a double dip.
Oh, yes. I think the worst I've seen was a logically required quadruple dip of Turtle Rock. But sequence breaking allowed you to take care of a couple of those dips. Alright. Light the torches. What's our progression? Hammer!
Alright, lucky for these runners, it's the hammer, so that means they can opt to go kill Moldorm if they choose, which looks like sab0tender is opting out of. Not a bad decision with how many items are on the east side of the mountain, and they can finish. sab0tender can finish all of his checks and be back on the top here on the right side of the mountain, so it's not too far to go back if there's no progression.
And that fairy was not playing nice, so he's not going to be able to get
the
health
fairy
refill.
The fairy and the Deadrock both being a little uncooperative, having to wait out the Deadrock's patterns. That's, in my opinion, the worst Deadrock up here. He's always in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the rest of them are all that kind either.
Alright, well, let's see what Ack decides to do once he gets his hammer. Does he go for Trolldorm, or does he do the same thing that Sabo's doing right now.
All right, looks like Acktheboker is going ahead to go to Moldorm.
And just cash and Spiral Cave. But Paradox Cave always has 7 items. There's Hookshot and Glove.
Oh, wow.
There's Dark World access, as well as Swamp access.
Yeah, Swamp is fully clearable at this point. Definitely not going to be the first choice of either of our runners, especially since we don't know if it's a crystal or pendant yet.
There's an empty bottle. I mean, you say that, but the thing is, with it being map compass shuffle, there's 8 items in Swamp Palace.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of item density, but with the addition of value in all dungeons, Thieves Town is a little bit more valuable than usual as well. And another thing to note that I think some runners lean towards is that just because a dungeon is clearable doesn't mean it's as fast as it's going to be later. So sab0tender may want a sword or a couple swords to be able to dispatch Argus a little bit faster. That could be a factor there.
I mean, you're not wrong on that. Okay, Eastern was a pendant. We finally got one of the runners to check the map that they've had.
Okay, and the Hera was a crystal as well. That's also important, so that was required. So Axe in good shape there, not skipping out on that.
Ice Rod and Powder in
Okay.
Hype Cave. And at this point, we know what 2 of the pendants are. So the chances are that TR is a crystal. That will certainly help with the Ice Rod.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a rating for that Hype Cave? What would you say out of 10?
I'd say, like, I'll go with Draw CR Tracker, who said 5. That works. But Sabo is taking that Swamp Palace care package from Paradox Cave and heading in.
Well, it wouldn't be a randomizer race without at least one of the commentators calling it completely wrong. Making me look like a fool and going straight into Swamp.
I mean, you're not wrong in the sense that a lot of runners like to avoid Swamp Palace just because of how long it can take if you need to do the left side. So you're not wrong in your analysis.
Yeah, and with as many locations that are available to the runners, it seems not unlikely that sab0tender will skip the left side. Of course, everybody plays a little bit differently, and sometimes it's just kind of a gut feeling of, do you do the left side or do you leave it? Sometimes it depends on how many items you found or what your other progression is from the dungeon, but we'll see what sab0tender does here. There's really no way to tell.
Yeah, the only difference is with this being map compass shuffle is you're guaranteed there's going to be items in there, whereas in your normal randomizer, there's a good chance that the big key or the compass or the compass of the map are going to be there, such that you can avoid it. Which goes back to what we were saying earlier. Is like, these runners are not averse to leaving places with items and taking the risk that there isn't anything there that they need.
Oh, absolutely, and oftentimes that pays out. And these runners are definitely better than me. There's a reason they've made it this far in the tourney. So some of these plays, these gambles almost, if you will, they can pay out, and there's definitely calculated decisions, not just being bold and skipping things.
Well, it looks like Ack is going to join Sabo in Swamp. And Sabo is going to do left side. So he is going to full clear this thing.
All right, well, this is unexpected, but I will admit my defeat. I was wrong.
Alright. So both runners are in Swamp. Nothing that we found so far, but Sabo's about to show us what is on the left side. Alright, just bombs to start. And half magic. Useful, but not logically required.
Yeah, it's certainly not worth the time that Sabo put into checking it, but can't complain at the same time. As you said, definitely useful. And it looks like Acktheboker is doing the same play. He's doing left side first as well. So we won't really see any divergence here. They're both going to be full clearing the dungeon. The only difference would be, I guess there's still a potential for one or both runners to leave the big chest behind. Since we haven't seen that big key. They'll have the option to backtrack to the big chest when they find it, or complete the dungeon, leave the item, or complete the dungeon and then return from the front, depending on what they find.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because usually you'll see most runners just go straight for Argus and then do left side on the way to the big chest if they have the key. And so in this situation, if you find the... Well, there it is, so that at least has a door that Sabo's going to use to go check it.
Yeah, this door's a little bit rough, though, since I think there's a way to avoid it, but I'm not very sure of what it is. The door here gets you stuck in a specific way that it forces you back down, and then you climb up again, and then it works. It's really obnoxious, and it feels bad because it's just an extra time waste, but it's, I guess, the closest they're going to get to the big chest with the key.
Which has a sword!
All right, so that's worth it. And luckily with the water drained in this basement area, you don't have to push the statue onto that switch on the left side. You can just go back down the stairs, and it's a little bit quicker.
Yep. So, interesting question at this point. Even with the sword, are we going to see a menu boss, or are we going to see Fighter Sword Argus?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Both are terrible and feel incredibly slow. But let's find out.
Menu! But you're right. Both are just as terrible.
I'm sure someone's crunched the numbers and knows which one's faster, and of course that depends on your skill level with the fight. I believe the hammer's a little bit easier, more consistent, so it takes a little bit less skill to master, but both are slow. But they're certainly not going to leave the dungeon now after full clearing everything else.
It also depends on your menu layout.
Oh yeah, of course. Sab0tender is making the really smart play here of grabbing 2 puffs at the same time, so you can hit both of them with the hammer at once. Saves on a lot of extra menus. Makes it much easier.
Was trying to go for ice rod shots, but now gonna pull out the hammer.
Yeah, the ice rod is just enough slower than the fire rod that a lot of runners aren't quite used to it. I know I'm not myself, so it's just slow enough where those ice particles move that it can make the fight significantly harder than fire rod, even though it does the same damage.
And Swamp was a crystal, so we had to come here.
Yeah, I'd like to point out, it looks like Ack did not pick up that sword in the big chest, so this could be really unfortunate if he doesn't choose to go back in and grab that from the big chest after completing the boss.
Which means he has to do the menu simulator. Alright. Gonna check South Grove Cave first. Just a big 20.
Yeah, that sword not only is required, but certainly makes gives us access to Mothula once we get a fire source. And there's another sword. Okay, so it looks like Ack may not be in too much trouble if he gets that one fairly early after Argus.
Ack taking down Argus with ice rod shots and gets his first crystal. Well, second actually, because he's already done Hera.
Yeah, that's a very nice phase 2 of Argus there from Ack. Good job. As we see, the dig game is randomized. The number of digs, it's standardized between both runners, but it could be up to 30 digs to find the item here.
Just another big 20. Gonna leave, and I would assume a mirror here to go to Village of Outcasts.
Yep, and if nothing else, yeah, that sword, I was going to mention, it not only is required, but it does make Thieves Town easier as well. Since blind is much easier to kill with a fighter sword than a hammer or a cane. Alright, nothing on Sit Kid, and fortunately for Acktheboker, he did go back and get that sword from the big chest, so it won't be hurting too bad. Let's see, he's going to Ether, or sorry, Bombo's tablet. Haven't seen this yet.
Nope. Sabo hasn't checked it either. So this will be new for us. And just pocket change, so both tablets got nada. Sabo forgetting he doesn't have Titan's mitts, so has to go through the bushes to get to Village of Outcasts.
Well, looks like Acktheboker is going to be giving us some new information here, checking the 5 and 6 crystals from the bomb shop vendor.
Pod in Thieves Town.
Okay, the Thieves Town play is probably going to be coming up pretty soon anyway, so that's not likely to be a difference maker as far as the runners deciding to go there. But knowing that Pod is a red crystal could be pretty valuable. It could cause Acktheboker to go in there earlier than instead of waiting to find the bow or progression, and possibly could luck out in that dungeon.
Oh, nice. We saw a fire rod on that pyramid ledge.
That is a very nice find, especially since it'll allow Acktheboker to go straight into Skull Woods and clear that out on his first visit into the Village of Outcasts area. We don't know if it's a crystal yet, but certainly could be valuable.
And Ack gonna use the opportunity to go north side. So we'll get a King's Tomb check and a Graveyard check. Graveyard Ledge check. And just big 20 there.
Yep, and at the same time, nothing at the front of Thieves Town yet. We know it's a crystal. sab0tender does not know that yet, but still, we'll certainly clear the rest of the dungeon for the additional 4 items. And the reward, which he knows is likely a crystal. He knows two of the pendant dungeons.
Alright, map. For Pod, which doesn't help. He knows that it's a red crystal.
Checking his map to see those red crystals that he just found out about. Maybe perhaps forgetting which maps he's picked up yet. That's really easy to do when you grab a map in this. It's really easy to think, oh, I'll check that later, and then you don't remember whether they were Light World or Dark World maps.
So interesting. All right, Bacon in Thieves Town. Interesting routing Ack has of doing the graveyard checks, and now gonna go to Catfish. Kind of makes sense because there's early flippers, and both runners having done Zora. Once you do those 2 graveyard checks, you're pretty much going to orphan Catfish, and it's going to be a long way to get there if you don't check it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really out of the way. Certainly a dead-end check at this point. And from here, he can mirror and flute into Kakariko, and that'll get him really quick access to Village of Outcasts. Save a little bit of time, potentially, from going east to west, doing Catfish, followed by those other 2 checks.
Yeah, it was a smart move on Ack's side point. Words hard, late at night.
I think if he had the cape, it might have been a difference maker, because being able to check and grab the Bumper Cave item could potentially be an advantage to going the other direction. Since you can't grab it anyway, that's less valuable.
And Ack predictably going to head in. We'll see if he decides to do Skullwoods or Thieves Town first. We are, in fact, doing a blind run of this game. I mean, blind in terms of randomization.
Exactly. This fight, however, the runners are not blind to. They know exactly what blind is going to do. They've all seen the script before. And sab0tender does a great job of staying on script and killing blind, losing essentially no time in that fight at all. Great job.
And with Sankheart being the prize, this is going to be the quickest of cutscenes with the crystal. Not that it matters all that much, but still.
Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have to wait that additional time for the hearts and the magic meter to refill before the sword up animation.
And we got Titan's Mitts in Skullwoods.
Ooh. That's very interesting. If sab0tender chooses to delay, looks like he's going north, probably going to check Skullwoods before doing the north Dark World checks, but we'll see. Yep, that's exactly where he's going. Okay.
Now, the one thing with this is that we know Fire Rod is on Pyramid Ledge. What we don't know is what the third pendant is. So the fact that Sabo can't finish this dungeon, as of right now, we really don't know whose benefit that will be until we see the 2 items here in the back, plus whether Mothula is holding a pendant or a crystal.
Yeah, absolutely. The good news for sab0tender is that even if it is required, he might save a little bit of time on Mothula with a stronger sword, but Hammer does the same amount of damage as Tempered or Butter Sword, so if Ack does a good job here and gets cooperation, he might not waste too much. Moth is not playing nice.
Sabo, meanwhile, heading to the Mire area. Mire is bombos, so we can't get in.
Alright, Acktheboker does a good job of finishing that fight.
And we get a blue shirt and a pendant. So now we know what's crystals and what's pendants.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great to get that pendant for his trouble. Especially with how uncooperative Mothula was, hugging all those spikes and just eating his inputs. Since when Mothula's against the spikes, he does not take damage. Which means you just keep hitting him and nothing happens until you get the good luck or manipulate him with damage to pop off a little bit. At least Ack knows what the crystals are now.
And small key, so if Sabo doesn't do back Skullwoods, that will benefit him.
Yep, and I missed it on Sabo's screen. He did a quick check of the Misery Mire entrance requirement. It looks like it's bombos. Our tracker seemed to have picked it up. Good job to our tracker catching that. So that's one more thing we know these runners will need.
Yep. Alright. Sabo's not seeing what's on Lumberjack Ledge. He's about to see the big 20. You know what's interesting right now? If you get that fire rod on Pyramid Ledge, if Turtle Rock is Quake, Turtle Rock is full clearable right now.
That's true, and that's not really a bad option, considering the density of items up on Dark Death Mountain. These runners can full clear Hookshot Cave, as well as Super Bunny Cave. And they may, if they do get that fire rod, if sab0tender grabs that, may choose to do Turtle Rock pretty early here.
And there was a shovel in Skull Woods. Ack, I think Sabo left as soon as he got mitts. Ack did the whole dungeon, so shovel's really the only difference there.
Yep, that's right. And that works out for routing for Acktheboker as well, because he hasn't checked K45 or Stumpy. So he's going to receive the benefit of that shovel being able to mirror from Stumpy after grabbing his Master Sword or potentially Tempered Sword. I'm assuming he's going to do Thieves Town first. And he'll save a little time not having to backtrack to that dig spot.
And Ack is now going to head into Village of Outcasts and most likely Thieves Town.
Yep, the runners looks like they're retracing each other's steps a little bit at the moment. And
with that, we should certainly remind everyone to please be sure to give sab0tender and Acktheboker follows on Twitch. This is game number 3 in their best of 3. And the winner moves on to the round of 8 and will face the winner of the I think it's Yayoshi and Goomba.
Yep, that's correct. Both great runners, great players, and great people. Been around this this community for a long time. Got a lot of experience, and they're always a lot of fun to watch. So I'm sure they will continue doing more. Whoever loses, I'm sure won't be their last race or their last tournament.
And Sabo gonna make this has to. Well, okay, he could do Hera because he still hasn't done. He still hasn't finished it off and gotten the crystal off of Troll Arm.
Absolutely, and with the hook shot, the fairly recent discovery. We say recent, even though it's been known since before this tournament started. The Hera pot clip allows that dungeon to be completed really quickly, so sab0tender can get to Moldorm very fast, and will likely do that while he's up here. Meanwhile, Acktheboker having a little bit of trouble in the room we affectionately call the Hellway, because there's so many enemies and spikes that, especially for a casual player, that room can just beat you up and take all your health. It's not a lot of fun until you get used to playing. And sometimes it's just the RNG, not even your fault.
And it's bombos for both Meyer and Turtle Rock.
All right, with that, we know we're not too far out from go mode then, since we only need the one medallion. And of course, that bow.
Mm-hmm. And this Super Buddy Cave brought to you by Maps. They tell you what's in the dungeon, and that's about it.
Yeah, sab0tender will potentially check that Hera map before going to Tower of Hera, since he does not know that Skull Woods is a pendant. So, in his mind, Tower of Hera could also be a pendant.
And there's Desert Map. We've known that's a green pendant from Sahasrahla.
Yep, we've known that, and both runners also check Sahasrahla, I believe, so that's not new information for sab0tender either.
I think Ack was the only one that checked it.
Oh, was that correct? Okay, my mistake.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm amazed sometimes what stuff I actually do remember and what stuff I forget. But he does check and see and knows now that Desert is the pendant and Hera is the crystal. So in he goes to finish off Trolldorm and get the bottle. It's on Trolldorm.
Okay, and choosing not to do that Hera pot glitch, I'm curious to know if sab0tender is either unfamiliar or somehow uncomfortable with that glitch. Since it is fairly new, that's certainly a possibility. Usually runners will forego that if there's potentially the need for an item in the big chest and they don't want to skip it, but since this has been cleared already, that's interesting.
So this is based on, I think it was Professor Renderer who commentated the first race. Well, it was Professor Renderer and Drossi that commentated the first race. One of them said, I think, that Sabo doesn't know a lot of the glitches that are allowed in the tournament, so he's more often the one that will, do different routing choices and try to win by routing, where Ack knows a lot of these glitches and is more of an execution player. And
Okay.
since both of them are in chat, Professor Renderer telling me that it was Drossi who said that, so thank you.
Okay, that makes sense. And both these runners are really good, and of course everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. Both these runners are great with just general execution, movement. The sab0tender's been no slouch on fighting any of these bosses and making good decisions here.
Yep. And Drossi is our tracker. He's also saying in chat that Sabo said after the race he's about 50-50 on Herapot, which that would when you're just going straight for Trolldorm, that kind of makes sense that, you're just gonna do what you know what you is tried and true. You know you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point for anyone that's getting into racing or even speed running other categories that people mention time saved, and it's only time saved if you can do it consistently. And sometimes what's the fastest method isn't the fastest for you if you're not comfortable.
Exactly.
All right, looks like we're getting the Smith chain checks from Acktheboker, so this is all new from us. And sab0tender going into pod, more new information.
Single arrow and hammer pegs. Now, Ack could also check Magic Bat. But the way his mirror portal's set up, it's going to be... he might be able to get around that. Well, there's Pompos.
Well, then we know the Smith's chain is required. That's good information to have. So just one item out of go mode for Acktheboker. Any guesses as to where we think that might be, or where you're hoping that would be, Jax Reffy? You know it's not on Lumberjack, so you can't say that.
Yeah, I can't say that. Let's say Laser Bridge, because Ack can do Turtle Rock now without Bombos.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Laser Bridge or somewhere like the Vanilla Big Key Chest in Misery Mire, that would also be a bit unfortunate. It'd be a fairly late check, I imagine, from either runner.
Sabo, meanwhile, is going to do a potion glitch. If you drink the potion at the right time while you're walking through, you just got to walk the mimics off the screen, and 30-year-old game thinks that's good enough for getting rid of the enemies.
And of course, the enemies aren't on the screen, so obviously you've killed them, right? There's no other explanation. Yeah, and
Well,
this
that
is
helps.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that helps with routing. I think we're about to say the same thing because that's where the big key was. Shovel that Sabo left in Skullwoods is just a piece of heart. So far, not having that Fire Rod to full clear Skullwoods, so far playing out in Sabo's favor. But the fact that he doesn't have that Bombos could start to help Ack pull ahead.
Yeah, actually, what I was about to mention was that the mimic, the potion camera unlock glitch there to trick the game and thinking those mimics were dead is a little bit more valuable probably for sab0tender, since he's looking for 2 items for go mode still, and Acktheboker really only needs 1. Although Ack has not checked.
Well, about that.
Alrighty then. Speaking it shall appear. There's the bow.
So we know what they need to do. It's just a matter of who does what first. Ack has to go to pod and get the bow. Now, bows are now progressive in version 31. So there is a second one. Sabo's got to do Jeremiah for Bombos and Pyramid Ledge for Fire Rod.
Yeah, absolutely. And that bow, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was bow locked since there was not a key in the first chest. Is that right?
That is true.
So that is out of logic, but with the progressive bows, that's fine. There's a chance that Acktheboker might find the other bow before going to pod.
All right, Ack. Gonna open up Turtle Rock. He hasn't done the Dark Death Mountain check, so we'll see if he decides to go into TR after checking them. Would kind of make sense. Yeah,
absolutely. I imagine he'll either go to Turtle Rock or potentially go to Spike Cave. Oh, going to Turtle Rock immediately. This is fairly aggressive, but not a bad play, especially considering he knows it's a crystal. A crystal in a very dense dungeon. It's a bit long, but there's a lot of items, just like Swamp, so it's not a bad idea. One thing to note, if anyone's joining us and noticing that Acktheboker has that fire rod that sab0tender is still missing. sab0tender, by getting the second of his Pyramid Fairy crystals, will probably put a little bit more weight on that check and grab the fire rod off of the pyramid ledge fairly quickly, so that shouldn't be a big concern for him. Oh wow, there we go. There's that other bow we just mentioned in Turtle Rock, as expected.
1 hour, 9 minutes, 48 seconds. Acktheboker's in go mode.
Alright, and sab0tender may not be too far behind. We'll see if he does that Pyramid Fairy check to get his Fire Rod fairly quickly here. And then he's got a lot of options. Unfortunately for him, he's got several really good locations to check, and it might pull him away from the Smith Chain and that required Bombos.
But he can't get into Mire. He can't get into Turtle Rock. Skullwoods is available. You could do Ice. Granted, you have to do Ice.
Yeah, Crystal Ice Palace, the Fire Rod might make him think that that's kind of the idea that I was considering he might go to.
Now, chat pointing out he can't do Ice right now. But that would be on the assumption that he gets the Fire Rod. Ack knows he's in go mode. He isn't even bothering with checking the big chest or Mimic Cave.
Yeah, he's taking the 95% chance that there's not a small key in both the vanilla big key chest and in the big chest. That certainly can happen. It's unlikely, but if that is the case, then Acktheboker is going to have to backtrack pretty far here. And it's going to feel pretty bad, but it does just fine.
Yep.
Chances are very low, so it's a really safe bet. Some runners still opt not to do it just because it's just that one more thing that could go wrong. And sab0tender looks like he's going to either the Bombos tablet or to the Pyramid Fairy after cleaning up a couple of Lake Hylia area checks that he opted not to do earlier. This should be good for him, assuming that he goes to the pyramid and grabs that Fire Rod. All right, that's good for him. There's still a lot of game left. Ack has been in go mode for a little bit here, and certainly appears to have a bit of a lead, but there's a lot of game left to be played, and we'll see where sab0tender goes next.
Yep.
As Acktheboker does a great job dispatching the first 2 heads on Trinex here.
Although Sabo, hopefully he checks Pyramid Ledge here in a sec. Yes, he does. Okay, good. Now the interesting thing that's going to come into play here, we've got two things. One that's going to be very big in Ack's favor, one that will mildly be in Sabo's favor. Ack, at this point, is in go mode, so every dungeon, he just has to go mode, find the big key, and finish it. Sabo, because of the placement, the key placement in pod, Ack is most likely probably going to go straight for Helmasar because the big key is in the bowlock side. So Sabo, meanwhile, where that other bow was, he most likely will get it and have silvers. But as you're about to see right now, because Ack is in go mode, he is going to do ice so much faster than Sabo will, because Sabo is going to be full clearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is unfortunate, but really good, smart decision from sab0tender to come into here. And with the item density, he does know that there's 5 items in here. He only needs 1 for go mode. This is, I believe, the most dense cluster of items that it's available to sab0tender, but unfortunately not the correct choice. And we get to see Acktheboker show us how great this dungeon is to execute with pretty close to NMG level equipment. And just like in the vanilla game, you don't actually need any chests at all in here. You can just rush through it. And we'll see how much time he saves over Sabo here. Oh, Sabo with a little trouble with the bomb jump here. Looks like he's just 1 pixel too low during these explosions, so he's bumping up against those crystal switches. That should be good.
Yep, he's got it.
Yeah, the ideal setup from where he is there just has 1 pixel of ground between his sword and the bottom of the bomb, and he was just a bit too low.
All right, Ack already has Cold Stare out of his cage, puts him in a corner, and then just finishes him off nicely. And that's crystal number 5 for him. Some people in chat bringing up a good point that this isn't over just yet. Execution still can come into play there still is the placement of the big key in GT. And it's really just a matter of when Sabo does the Smith chain.
Oh yeah, of course. There's certainly lots of things that can affect the outcome. Things such as Moldorm falls, Ganon falls. Like you said, big key placement and routing in Ganon's tower. Any of these things can make up time, but unfortunately, every chest that Sabo checks that isn't the right one just takes a little bit more time away. So he's got a ticking clock of being able to come back into this.
Mm-hmm. The one thing in Sabo's favor is the dungeons that he can't... The dungeons that most likely he could divert to, he can't enter without the Bombos.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good saving grace.
Alright, small key here and big key. I would assume Ack is just going to rush Helmassar from here.
Oh yeah, there's certainly no reason not to. He's fully equipped. Shouldn't have an issue with combat throughout the rest of the game. Even has a red potion, so if things go wrong for him, either in this dungeon or Misery Mire, Ganon's Tower, he's able to drink that, recover some health, so he shouldn't have any trouble with that.
Yep. Now, the one downside of that is we know the silvers for Ack are buried in pods, so he's not going to get them.
Right.
Which, again, kind of gets to the whole point about there's still some execution left to do. Because most likely Sabo will get the silvers that are in Turtle Rock because of how early they are. So he'll have silvers for his Ganon fight. Ack will be silverless.
Yep, and with both these runner skills, silvers generally aren't that important, aren't a huge time save, but stakes are high. This is game 3, and everybody who's played this game has had an experience where just something goes wrong, and you get off script on Ganon, you miss the torch glitch, you panic, you get hit by a fire bat, you fall. Like these things kind of snowball. There's still a potential for anything to happen here for either runner.
Sabo is going to go finish Skullwoods, which will just take him further away from Jeremiah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We just received the pendant, and was there anything else of value in this dungeon? I can't remember.
Blue Mail. Of course. Blue Mail was on Mafia. Which will actually be red for Sabo.
Okay.
For those asking in chat, this is top 16. So the winner of this race moves on to the round of 8 and will face the winner of Yoshi versus Goomba. Which, of course, chat was having fun with that earlier because essentially now we've got Mario characters playing Zelda. So, you know, have fun with that. Ack just mowed down all those enemies in that room. I've seen it done where you can hit 3 of the whiz robes with a cane block, but using the fire rod was very impressive there.
Yeah, the fire rod strats there are a little bit simpler. I don't know if it's faster than using the cane if done optimally, but it certainly looks pretty, and it's a lot of fun to do once you get some practice in and are able to get it consistently like that. He's doing a great job. Yeah, Sabo again having a little trouble with bomb jumps. That seems to be his kryptonite this race. I noticed he opted not to do the bomb jump in Tower of Hera earlier. Must just not feel comfortable with them. And then that's certainly okay. He's made up for it with a lot of decision making. It's just bad luck that Smith chain is the place he needs to go to get his bombos.
Mm-hmm. And with it being a Godmire, Ack's just on his way to Vitreous, and that will be all the crystals for him.
Godmire and Acktheboker gets to set up one of my favorite glitches, the spooky action glitch, where you can do some wizardry and hit these switches with a fire rod shot without even looking at them, as you'll see in the next room. Well, again, he's proven me wrong.
So he didn't get it.
Yeah, he had the setup correct, but I think he was just off on the positioning of the fire rod shot on those anti-fairies. Basically, you can hit the switch in the north room there without even walking in, and it saves, of course, the time to switch to your bomb, blow up the wall, and walk through the transition both ways.
All right. 8 sticks into the eyeball. And that's crystal number 7. So there are 22 locations where that Ganon's Tower Big Key can be in the basement of Ganon's Tower. If you want to play in our guessing game, you need to guess the number between 1 and 22. Having subscribed to one of our 6P gaming channels or donate 250 bits. And some of you got in a little earlier, so I was probably get it in now. And a 0. What'd you guess?
I guess 7. No real reason, just it's a number. How about you?
3. I just randomly guessed numbers 2.
Okay, fair enough. I know some people have places they want to see the big key to either troll the runners or make the seed go a little faster so they feel good about themselves and making the right call, but at the end of the day, it's just a guess, of course. Just have a little bit of fun with this fairly routine part of the game where it's just all down to watching these runners show us why they're here, how well they can execute this game that is not quite as easy as they make it look, to put it lightly.
And Sabo, unfortunately, just continuing to fall further behind. He did check Ped, but now he's doing Green Pendant Desert.
Yeah, and again, these still aren't bad plays. There's 2 items here. Getting to Lanmola's with the items that he has is one of the quickest bosses to get to and take down. So it's not a bad decision. 2 guaranteed items, but just not the right ones. Ooh, and Acktheboker doing a nice subtle little thing there that I just learned about the other day. If you cancel your dash before this animation, it reduces the lag on the GT opening cutscene. Saves you time.
Interesting.
Fun fact.
Very fun fact. All right, guesses are closed. Ack gonna go left. And number 1, red thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's always his route or if it's just lately, but Acktheboker has been doing either Dark Magician or Pink Magician, whatever you want to call it, strats here in GT. So no surprise that he's doing this.
Number 2, small key. Number 3, bombs. 4, key. 5, hoard of cash. Six, compass for Eastern. 7, more money.
And sab0tender just grabbing a map for Swamp Palace, which he knows is not valuable. He's already cleared the dungeon. But, of course, since he did Desert Palace, has to turn in that green pendant for, in his mind, a chance to still stay in this. Knowing it's an hour and a half into the seed, knowing how good Ack is as a player, he's probably thinking it's got to be something that's out of the way, otherwise this is already over. And finally looks like he's making the right play, grabbing his Bombos medallion from the Smith chain. So he'll be in go mode shortly here.
Yep. But checks 8 through 11 there. It's going to be kind of tough to come back from this one because he still has 2 dungeons to do. Well, Ack's looking for that big key.
Yeah, the GT routing is not paying off here for Ack, but looks like it's not going to matter, and he's gonna be okay even in spite of this unfortunate big key placement.
All right, 12. Red thing.
Yep, and that ticking clock, it probably is getting to Ack a little bit here. He's taking a lot of hits in these first couple rooms on the left side, falling down the hole, using his hook shot in the wrong direction. It's just a lot of little things that he's probably thinking, you know, sab0tender is a great player. He's got to be close too. You know, he's either just ahead of me or right on my heels. So again, it's unlikely to make the difference in the race, but he's losing seconds here and there.
13, small key. $14, $15, number 16.
All right. Checking one last chest, hoping for probably a health refill, I would imagine, would be the only thing of value. Potentially a gold sword might make Ack a little bit more comfortable with the Ganon fight, but nothing else that could be in that chest that he would really want at this point.
Okay, I have to say the name, so fart quietly, then walk away. You guessed correctly with 16. Thus, you score 37 points on the GT Big Key leaderboard. But at any point, the randomization is done. Acktheboker just now has to execute his way through the gauntlet, take care of the wizard and the pig, and he moves into the round of 8.
I guess the gauntlet's a little scary for him. Chooses to restart that room. It's an odd little error that I don't know if I've seen before.
Ack does have a potion, yes. The red potion we got from Trolldorm, I don't think he's used yet.
Yeah, that's correct. That's good for him. His health situation's not dire. He's definitely gone through the gauntlet with less health before. And with the blue mail, it's not nearly as intimidating either. But the potion definitely is a good comfort to have. And after that little gaff in the first room of the gauntlet, does a great job with the rest of the rooms. And just speeds through them, not really losing any more time there.
Making good use of the magic meter and tempered sword spin. Still has enough magic with that small pot to now do the most satisfying rooms in the gauntlet.
And sab0tender is really playing this dangerously, almost getting hit by lightning a couple times. Does have a fairy, check to make sure what was in his bottles, but doesn't need it, which is good, saves a little bit of time. Gets a little too late here, but does get his 6th crystal.
Ack waiting to have the door closed, because if you accidentally go up the stairs as the door is closing, you despawn all the enemies in the tower.
Yeah, that's one of those little things that almost never happens, but it can happen, and it's very, very unfortunate.
Alright, Shoulder Arm 2.
Yeah, with Tempered Sword this time, that's a very simple fight. Just 1 slash, 1 spin on the tail. He's down. Opens the last chest again, possibly looking... I guess in his case, he doesn't know where the silvers is. I hadn't considered that before. So Acktheboker most likely looking for those, which we know where they are, and he's not... Did not find them, could not have found them here in GT.
Alright, time for his geometry test. Ooh, nice triple!
A little harder setup here. Only gets a single on that one. Of course, the patterns you get definitely can make this easier or harder. This is a nice one here. You should be able to finish it off. Yep, no problem.
Yep, 3-1-1-1. Aga 2 is down, and it's time for the big pig. Alright, Ack through the first phase. Sabo has his silvers, but at this point it's all over but the crime. Because Zach's already in phase 3.
Yep, that's right. Just 12 slashes from the first 2 phases. 1 hit after each time he becomes vulnerable. Because who knows how many teleports he's going to get. But 4 of these hits, and on to the final phase.
But since he doesn't have silvers, it's spin and win time.
Yep, that's just another 12 hits, though. Does get the torch glitch, which certainly speeds things up. Really, all he has to do is not fall, time these spins correctly, and it's his.
Yep. There it is. Just gotta wait for the fanfare to finish. The door opens and Acktheboker moves on to the round of 8 with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 36 seconds. GG's.
Yeah, GG, Ack. It was a great race, great finish. Looks like sab0tender is going to continue to press on through Turtle Rock and finish this one out. Can't blame him for coming this far, wanting to continue through the seed. Pause a little bit, probably to congratulate Ack or discuss something with him in the chat first.
Yeah, I've got chat open. That was exactly what it was congratulations. And speaking of congratulations, congrats to Acktheboker. GG's, you're in the round of 8.
You mean I still gotta keep playing?
Yes, you still have to keep playing.
Fine!
You still get to keep playing.
Yeah.
That's the mindset.
Oh lord.
So, that was probably the most interesting early play I have seen in a while, where the game just gave you no idea how you were supposed to get to Dark World.
Oh man, yeah, the opening was really silly. I didn't mind it that much because it meant you were like, forced to get the boots, so that's alright, but yeah, it's pretty unusual to no weapon your way into Hera to get boots, to get a torch, to do the tile room, to get a hammer. That was really silly, but I was kind of happy that it turned out like that because I have been really late to getting to the Dark World, and a lot of my seeds, my opponents usually beat me to the Dark World and start rolling to the good stuff, you know, and I'm still over here trying to find my freaking Moon Pearl. I didn't mind it because I felt like that was going to even everything up, even if, you know, there was some Galaxy Brain plays made before.
And honestly, the way the items kind of set up, you basically had access to all 3 dungeons, but it just kind of, you both kind of just saved Hera for last, and turned out that was the one that was the right choice.
Well, I mean, obviously you don't want to make too many trips up the mountain. And like, even if you did Hera first, you get the boots and you're like, incredible. But I don't think you're going to be going right back to Hera, like, if you've not done something else. So even if somehow you were that Galaxy Brain, like, going back just to do the tile room, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I agree. I can see your point on that.
Yeah, so Ack, once you did get Dark World access, what was your initial decision and how to route that? Like, you and sab0tender actually both went directly into Swamp. What was your thinking there, as opposed to like the Village of Outcasts area that you could do a lot in?
I don't know. I didn't have the mitts. I didn't have a sword. Honestly, I wasn't even really thinking about going to Swamp. I think when I did Hype Cave, I like menued the bombs and I looked at my inventory and I was like, I could just do Swamp right now. Like, whatever, fine, I'll just do it. I was planning on doing Pyramid into Catfish, mostly because that puts you in the way of the 5/6 guy. You get that information. I'd already done Zora, so that means I wasn't orphaning Catfish, and then I wasn't orphaning Pyramid, and I knew I could hook over and get King's Tomb and Graveyard Ledge. Just, you get all the nasty stuff out at once, and then, you know, do some swordless Swamp. I laughed really hard that there was a sword in the big chest, because I was like, man, I should go back just in case there's like a sword in there, but I was like, whatever, I'll just finish the dungeon instead of, you know, deal with the crazy staircase. But I don't know. I kind of like playing swordless. It's fun.
Well, unfortunately, you got 3 of them.
Well, I mean, when you're swordless in a seed that is supposed to have swords, that's a little frustrating. But when it's swordless at the gate, you get to have a little bit more fun. I was a little surprised that the item that Sabo missed was Bombos. I kind of figured he would miss the Fire Rod. I almost lost it too when Ganon told me, "Hey, did you get the silver arrows in Pod?" Because like Pod would have been the last thing I would have done, because I basically could have full cleared every single dungeon except for Pod. And like, man, if that would have been my first bow, well, I would have been very upset.
Yeah, that was that's actually what Sabo did. Was he went right around the time that you got Bombos from Jeremiah was about the time when Sabo was in Pod and potion glitch to get the bow, that his first bow, because that ended up being in the dark basement.
Yeah, Pod was immediately bow locked. Man, that was just some weird stuff, and it was almost hard too when you're in the village of Outcast. I mean, I didn't know what I needed because I just got the mitts in Skull Woods, and I'm thinking like, man, I could just be a bow from goat mode, and you could just be sitting in Dark Death Mountain. Like, I need to get up there really, really, really quick. But it was tough, and I don't know. I played a little bit more thorough, and I felt like I got paid off. And I got my pendant from Moth that got me a mail upgrade. That also gave me the knowledge of all my crystals and pendants.
Mm-hmm.
And then I almost thought about skipping Dig Game and Thumpy and all of that, but that got me another sword, and then doing Smith along with that got you your Bombos. So.
Yep. All right. Well, we got to pass along here that now that Sabo found the big key, he has decided to forfeit. And we'll be bringing him in shortly. Sabo, you there?
Hey there, how's it going? I think I'm maybe echoing there. Let's stop that for a second. Okay, hey, how's it going, everybody? GG, Zach.
Oh, GG, Sabo. Great series, man. This was
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I just wish I hadn't face planted in this third match here. But yeah, what can you do? That's rando.
I mean, that, as we were saying to Ack earlier, that early game was just nasty with kind of how the game just really did not give you any sort of clue what Dark World Access was.
It really didn't. Yeah, there was just so little that we could have, that could have sent us in any direction. So it was just like, take something and clear it and see what happens. And of course, it was kind of like the of all of the options there. So yeah, kind of a bummer. When I saw that, I mean, even the very beginning, Escape, I felt like I was behind after Escape because I apparently don't know how to use the Cane of Samaria.
I struggled with that too. It was so weird. I felt like they just kept like dodging around the block. I was like, wait a minute, this is supposed to hurt you. How come you're on top of me now?
I had a 6:30, man. I got to go back to school. Like, it was rough. And then, yeah, that Dark World Access was really gross. And, as Zach had said in his interview there, yeah, he's been getting to the Dark World a bit later. I tend to maybe get a little bit luckier and get my way into the Dark World a little bit sooner. When it's a chain like that, I'm like, man, there's no room for me to gain any ground. So it was bad news from the start.
Did you make the early play on Desert with the book before you did some of the other stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought I was so big brain, and then no, it was just bombs. I think was all we could get. All I could get, at least when I.
Yeah, the book was actually garbage.
Such garbage. Yeah. Dumb item.
Yeah, I think I was cursing at myself.
Mm.
Yeah,
What you got
both
there?
split up at the beginning, and Ack, you were in Eastern Palace, while Sabo, you were in Desert Palace, and you kind of just swapped places and headed up Death Mountain at the same time. And then, of course, both left and came back to that Hera basement around the same time.
Yeah, we must have both last location or more or less last location to everything then.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no way to... You didn't want to do that. That particular sequence of events was just so gross that any runner was going to put that off.
Mm-hmm.
It was so weird too, because I was like, what item am I even about to get that's gonna let me do anything? I guess the hook shot would have been a big one I was But I'm just sitting here like, what am I even gonna get that's gonna let me like move in this seed? It was so weird.
Yeah, I thought in the end it might end up being the cape, and then we'd have to do Aga anyways after all that.
Well, where was the sword gonna be? You know?
Oh, right, we were swordless still at that point. Yeah, no, it would have been nothing then. Yeah, it would have been trash. Huh.
And I was really nervous too that I had forgot something. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be nervous in these things. You can't really help it. And I'm just like, oh, did I not talk to the dude in Mini Moldorm Cave? Like, this is great. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so from there, you both did Swamp. You both made the early Swamp play, and then really kind of where the seed kind of diverged from there was Sabo. You went left and then headed to Village of Outcasts, where Ack went right, checked the bomb shop for what the 5-6 crystals were, and then got his fire rod from the pyramid ledge, and that kind of set him up to where he was able to kind of get his progression, faster than fortunately you did, Sabo.
For sure. Yeah. The two items that I missed were the keys to the seed. They were the things that kept you going for sure. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my routing these days. Like, I used to be a big fan of Pod, and when you go in the Dark World, you do Hype Cave. We did Swamp today. I would usually go right, and for some reason I've been just turning left, and I don't know. I just left, and that's it. And I got burned today. That's for sure.
I mean, the only thing I would say in your defense was at the time, Thieves Town was the only other dungeon that you could full clear. You didn't, unless you had checked the bomb vendor, you wouldn't have known that it was a crystal at that time.
Right. Yeah, that's probably what I was thinking for sure. I can get a dungeon done. Yeah.
Was there any sort of thought as to why you kind of held off the Smith chain for so long?
It was like when I go into a seed. I mean, this is the reason why I think I got as far as I did in the tournament, just in general. Is I'll kind of commit to some skips because I know that I usually have to skip. And today I saw the Smith chain. That's what I'm going to skip. I'm just not going to do it, and I'm going to hope and pray that something isn't on there. And of course, Bombos was. It was just one of those things that I usually will pick something that I got to just commit to not doing, and that was it.
It's always that one time where it just comes back to bite you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I live and die by those kind of plays. Yeah, that's exactly what happened today.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen to everybody. That's what happened to Ack in game 2, right? One skip came back to bite him.
Yep.
I almost wanted to skip the Smith sequence and stuff there too.
Oh, why didn't you, man?
Sorry,
we would have had a race.
I had the powder and I had the shovel and I had not done, Stumpy K45 dig game and all of that. And I mean, I was just sitting there like, dude, I could just literally need a bow. I kind of wanted to go, look a little bit more into the world outside of the Village of Outcasts, but everything just lined up so nice just to get everything done and taken care of. I'd already checked the Bombos tablet so you could flute away. I couldn't help but check it. Yeah, getting the sword and then the bomb. Sick.
That makes sense. Perfect sense.
I will say, having watched both of your races earlier, if there was another required item on the Lumberjack ledge, I was about ready to die laughing.
Oh, we had something. 2, didn't we?
Yeah, I guess it was, yeah.
I forgot about the first one because I got it blind. But yeah, the last one had the hammer.
That's right, yeah. Oh, that would have been something. That would have really completed the trilogy.
All right, well, Sabo, unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to you for this tournament. I mean, you made it to the round of 16. That's got to feel like some sort of an accomplishment.
Sure does. My expectation for this tournament was to maybe make the brackets, and I mean, this run that I've been on has just been fantastic. I've got to play against so many excellent runners, and I've lucked out with a couple, and I think just the well ran dry this time, and that's okay. I really overperformed, and I can't be happy any happier with how it all went. So,
I mean, considering you took down both Andy and Walther the Fourth, I mean, you at least get to hold on to that you beat Andy.
I know, right? That's crazy. He's so good. So,
well,
yeah.
I was gonna say, I saw somebody poke in chat saying that you were the underdog, Sabo, and I would just like to call them out and be like, I mean, at this point, like, no one's the underdog. Everyone is really good. If anybody in this whole entire tournament was the underdog, it actually was Andy, because he actually has a dog sprite. So anybody saying anything negative about Sabo, no, he's a great runner. Definitely not an underdog. Definitely not a runner you sleep on. Again, Walter's here. Ask him. Was it a good idea? I don't think so. It was an awesome series, though.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, and GG's to Ack going forward. Good guy in the community as well. You should definitely follow him and follow his journey as he continues on playing this wonderful game. I'm rooting for you, bud. So best of luck in top 8. I hope you end up in a matchup with Goomba there. That'd be nerdtastic. So yeah, good luck going forward, man.
Oh no, is that match done yet, or have they?
It's not done yet. No, it's Goomba. It's Goomba Yoshi.
Those are the two I have to play.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It doesn't get any easier.
The winner of that one.
No, wait. I forfeit. Sabo. That's you're in the top 8, dude. You did it.
Let's go back to the SRL. Okay.
Yeah, it's over. Start that game back. Climb GT.
Okay. I'm on it. Oh, jeez.
Well, Ack, I mean, unfortunately, you will be waiting for the winner of the Yoshi Goomba race, so. But, we will certainly look forward to that as you get to keep playing. So, but yeah, as Sabo did say, please be sure to give Acktheboker and sab0tender follows on Twitch. It was certainly a pleasure watching both of you through your 3-game series, and Ace Zero, it was a pleasure having you in the commentary booth tonight. Usually we see you racing, so it was fun to have you along.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun commentating as well. Unfortunately, I'm not as good as either of these runners, so I didn't make it quite this far in the tourney, but it was definitely fun in the booth with you, Jex Reffi, and enjoyed watching Ack and Sabo, both you guys playing. Look forward to seeing you in more races in the future, sab0tender, future tourneys, and seeing you go further in this one, Ack.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for the other commentary tracking. Restream.
Oh yeah, let's not leave out Drosy1, our tracker. Great job. Thank you for keeping us honest and focused on the game and not having to remember what they have the whole time.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have Drosy along with us. All right, in terms of schedule, we got 2 races tomorrow. We got early rando, at least in the US, but we've got early rando on the main Speed Gaming channel. We've got DoomTap versus Bonta, which is race number 1 between them. Weighty Words and Big Dunka will be the only race we have in the evening. That will be at 6:20 Eastern, and that will be on Speed Gaming 2. DoomTap Bonta will be on the main Speed Gaming channel. So from that, it's been a pleasure watching Ack and Sabo with their race. So for Acktheboker, for sab0tender, for Ace Zero, and Drosy1, I have been Jex Reffi. Thank you to all the volunteers behind the scenes, both with the tournament and the Speed Gaming network of channels. And thank you all so much for watching. We certainly enjoyed having you, and we'll see you next mission.